Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining this week. My name is Tyler Woodall. We have got Patrick and Dawn with me. Patrick, do you want to say hello to the people first and introduce our guest?
Absolutely. So yeah, guys, thanks for tuning in again. And today we have Dawn, and I've been privy to be connected through Dawn through initially through I think at Indie Tech, and then through social media, and really excited to have this because I get to see what you do from a distance, but then I actually have that time really in kind of this intimate setting. So, tell us about some of the stuff that's happening in your agency, and just some of the cool things that you're doing.
Sure. Well, just a quick background. I think I will hit 30 years next year. So as far as being in the industry, um, and you know, where I'm at today is not at all where I pictured I would be. I mean, I really did think I was, you know, I guess the closest equivalent is like that State Farm office where there's an agent in the back and there's a girl up front and, you know, they are in their community. I mean, that's kind of what I envisioned. That was the biggest my vision was. Today we're a personal lines department, a commercial lines department, and we're a team of 17, including an intern. Um, you know, we, we've evolved to a place, we've had to rebrand. Uh, all of it is things I never saw when I first started. But I love it. Most of it's fantastic. Not everything's it doesn't work out always the way you plan it. But I would say the biggest thing that I feel like I'm working on right now, again with 17, and I am across. We have two locations. I have U.S. based employees in Minnesota and outstate, and I have five of our team members outside of the country. So I think the biggest thing I'm trying to work on is shifting how we've done business in the past and adapting to removing myself more on the day to day. It's hard, I think, when you evolve. I think it's kind of like when you see your kids every day and you don't recognize how much they change and they say, go measure me on the wall, and you walk them in there and you put a mark and you're like, wow, holy smokes. Or then they see a family member like, wow, you got so tall. And you're like, no, they didn't. Yeah, they did, but you see them every day. It's hard when you see your own agency every day and you're in the process every day. When you step out, your team learns resilience. And I probably that's the biggest thing that I think I've crippled them on over the years has been being too available and being too resourceful for them, that when I became unavailable, which happened a little bit more due to some personal stuff in my life last year with my father, I they had to rely on each other, and I tried to set that up. I did try to set teams up, and I said, put me in it. If I have an opinion or something, I can help out or you get stuck, but rely on each other and go back to each other for stuff. And there was some growth pains, some mistakes made, and things like that, but they all developed the skills that I probably was robbing them of by not pushing them to learn it and not have me be there. And that's a skill. I don't know the secret to that, to taking it out of your head and giving it to somebody else, but you can give it to them, but then they have to take it and implement it. So I've given the information, and then I've had people that don't take it, and then they just come back for the same information. It's that, give a person a fish and they'll eat for a day. I've had people that I've retrained over and over again and they still don't implement. I think right now there's something about absence that created the necessity for implementation. So
That's interesting. That's cool. Tell us a little bit about how'd you get into the industry? Coming up on 30 years, that's
yeah,
wild. How'd you get started? Because I'm sure you did not envision, oh, I'm going to be an insurance agent for the rest of my
God,
life.
no. No, I spent a lot of money and time going to college to be a child psychologist and a chemical dependency counselor for the deaf. So
Oh, wow.
that is my degreed background, and I spent a little bit of time working in the field. Uh, and then, honest to God, I realized that I I have a brain like my dad's, who was an engineer. I have to fix things. I have to understand them, and I do have to be a little in control of them. So the counseling area is it's not built for that. It is really built for, helping people see things, but you also have to watch them continue to make terrible decisions at times, hurt themselves, hurt their loved ones. And the amount of pain in that area was more than I could manage. And so, I couldn't jump in and fix it. It's really a hands-off, um, field. So I left there and I had to find something else to do. I started a company that did legal process serving work. I could control my time, my hours, my method, who I worked with, how I did it, how much I charged. So I went from having no control over my environment to having total control, for the most part, over my environment. I could find you, I could identify you, I could serve you. Most of the time I ran faster away from you than you could to me, but I had a couple situations where somebody was physically assaultive. And after the third one, I kind of thought I might not be the right candidate for this job long term. I was successful, but probably not the safest environment. And I literally had to pick a new career after all that. And insurance met the need I had for, tangible. So focusing on property casualty. And I focused initially on personal lines. You have to have an auto insurance and you have to have home. I never saw myself as a salesperson. Again, I'm a counselor, I'm an educator, I'm a helper, I'm an empath. Those are all the things that I am. Doesn't always make, a hardcore salesperson. And so I wanted to sell auto home insurance because I thought I could see how I was helping people. And I was going to do it differently and better than the next guy. It's just, that was my opinion. So I went into it in that respect. I went and got my license first so I could learn about insurance and make sure it was something I felt like I could do. And it was concrete. So I could learn the forms, I could learn the language, I could figure out how to apply it, and then I could translate that back to who I was helping. That's kind of the role I've had. And I try to teach my team. I have sticky notes on my monitor. Some of them are like reminders, like disability is a living death. I have that because you can die, but you can also be disabled. And to me, that thought process is, if you're disabled, that's like a living death. I also have, other reminders, like I must complete my task because sometimes I can't remember complete my task. So things like that. But translator was huge because it is a legal contract. And I serve legal papers. So I got to know a lot of attorneys. I got to read a lot of legal documents. I read the stuff that I served. I got to read how things were interpreted, and I realized how serious it was. So I looked at that and I went, I'm an interpreter for what this language means to help somebody understand how does it apply to their life. And that was how I started. And then I've just evolved into other stuff. Now I feel I love the commercial space. It's way more complicated, but I feel like I'm a really good interpreter. And if I understand what your concerns are about your risk and how your company operates, I can really go back to the forms and figure out if this form is going to respond in the way that you anticipate it will be. And if it isn't exactly, we're going to have a conversation about it. And I'll make sure you try to understand it. That's our approach. That's what works best in our office. So
that's very cool.
And one of the things that I think we consistently find, Tyler, let me know if you agree with this, that it seems that like not very many people come from a sales background. It seems like most of the successful agents in insurance really just have a heart to serve. And it's a consistent theme that we're finding that the ones who come in from the sales side typically burn out, and those that come from a serving side are the ones that have long-lasting agencies. So love that.
Yep.
How has the transition, or when did you start the transition from personal lines into commercial? Because that's the thing that we hear from agents every day that they want to do, but a lot just don't know where to start.
So I'm a huge believer in you get out of it what you put into it.
Yes.
And if you want to learn something, it's going to come before 8 a.m. and it's going to come after 5 p.m. I literally think I just said that to two of my team members yesterday. I said, I noticed on our national alliance, because I can run your list of classes you took, I see you're not taking advantage of these. If you want to be better, get higher compensation, develop better trust, write better accounts, sell more lines, not ask me as many questions, where are you going to get that? Just like I learned how to tie a car to a car trailer and never did it before. I didn't go tell someone to do it for me. I went and figured it out. Took
Hmm.
me twice as long, three times as long as it would have been somebody who's done it before, but that was my first time. So I think when I transition from personal to commercial, it's because I have a stronger desire not to be wrong than I have to be right. And I've said that to people. Um, and I don't know if it resonates as well. I know that, there are people on there that feel like they have to be right. Like you can have conversations with them and you know that their need is to be right. My need is to not be wrong. My fear in life is to be wrong. Uh, so when I started having small commercial requests, because I developed great rapport and trust for personal lines, I personally couldn't go into it without understanding it the same way I did personal lines. So my personal investment was I had to go back and read the stuff. So I have a subscription to National Alliance. I can take every class in the book. I took a 4-hour class the other day on certificates of insurance in every form and upstream parties and downstream parties. Put me on any game show about insurance and I probably will win. It's
Hmm.
just that was an outside investment. So when I do that, if the class is during the day, I usually end up working at night or I have to make it up somewhere else. It doesn't come for free between 8 and 4:30. And so if you want to learn commercial lines and you're in personal and you have a desire to do it, I think if it's coming from a place of really wanting to understand it, you start with the forms. You go grab a form and you grab a highlighter and you go through and you read it and you try to understand what it says. And we have AI today that you could put that, I wouldn't put a form in and say, Educate me." I'd put my paragraph in and I would say, "This is how I interpret this. What do you think?" I've asked it about ISO related stuff at times and it gives me an answer. I'm like, "You're wrong." And they're like, "Oh, thanks for correcting me." Yeah, I'm glad I'm helping you out,
The
and
frustrating
so
part with AI. Yeah.
yeah,
It's a
exactly.
yes
So
man.
AI isn't the be all end all. It can be a tool, but you have to be careful with it just like everything else. But I think the biggest thing is if you have a desire to do it, the question I would have is what was your desire to do personal lines? Is it to help people? Do you know your forms really well, or do you sell the same stuff every day? Everybody gets this, 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 and this. If that's all you're going to do, you're going to struggle in commercial lines because it's not cookie cutter.
Hmm.
And so, but if you really do want to know it and understand it, and you like the thought of getting to know all these different businesses, I got a guy that cleans the food trucks and fixes all. That's all he does. He's got a whole business built on that. And I got people that make the phone, the holders that go in your car. They manufacture them overseas. I had a guy once that developed his own cooler system to go up against the big cooler one, and he had manufactured overseas, imported it in. I learned all about these businesses, and that was fascinating to me. Did not happen between 8 and 5. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the best description of basically the input determines the output, that which is
Mhm.
something I tell my team all the time. But to be able to actually like have all of that. And it's funny that you mentioned the commercial space so prevalent because I have a client and I had no idea going through this process, but they moved from Texas up here and I had no idea that there was they literally do $1 million plus in revenue from repackaging glitter
Yeah.
and all the, because people want different color variations
Yeah.
and combinations. So they buy glitter and then they basically repackage it so they get different colors and combinations. And I was like, who's buying these things, right? Like,
Yeah.
is there that much glitter and a huge need? And like, they actually outsold themselves on Amazon through their Facebook group and through their website. So they actually pulled product from Amazon because they were getting so much requests. But it went from some lady just packaging from her home. Then she hired her
Yeah.
mom. Then she hired her aunt. Her husband quit his full-time
Yeah.
job. Their kids now work for them full-time. And they came up here and bought an entire warehouse just for
Yeah.
glitter. It's like the craziest thing.
If you ever try to clean that stuff up, you want to have it in one warehouse and you don't want it anywhere else.
100%.
My
So, yeah,
my
man.
daughter's prom dress had glitter in it and it's still in my house.
Mm,
So I find it and I'm like, God, that dress. I should
yeah.
have said no. So
That's funny. All right. So it sounds like starting with the forms. And it's funny you say that because that's how I got into
Yeah.
doing it. Liberty was having a 2 day course. So drove down to Atlanta, stayed overnight, did their 2 day course. And we literally, like on my bookshelf, I have these thick binders of ISO
Mhm.
forms that we just highlighted and learned commercial general
Yep.
liability. And
I swear to
then,
God, that's I did a Western, no, it wasn't Western National, it was not Westfield. There's a company that isn't around anymore. And that's what I did. I signed up for a 8 to 5 class and it started with page one, who's an insured?
yep,
And they go through it. And so I don't know who else offers something like that, but honest to God, that was it. That was the biggest key to switching me on to go that direction was understanding how to understand the form. So,
the the
Yeah.
best training I got was Pacesetter. So back when
uh,
State Auto was still rocking, I went to Pacesetter, and actually, as a part of their program, you have to go through the CLCS and get it before you even get there. So they
okay.
want everybody starting with a base of at least understanding the basic forms. And then the first week, so you're in Columbus for 2 weeks. The first week is coverage training.
Yeah.
Week two, I think you've got 4 days of sales training. But so out of 14 days, 10 of them are insurance. And
Yep.
so I do think that's extremely important. And yeah, National Alliance has a lot of great resources. So agents, go check that out.
Yeah, for sure.
What about prospecting? How'd you learn that? Because that's another one. I mean, you either got to call your way in or door knock your way in. What was that process like?
So I I'm not a call your way in. Um, Again, remember I'm social services background over here. So I when I first started, I had more time than money. My oldest child is 21. My time in the industry is almost 30 years. So I had a long time without that responsibility. And I totally understand how that changes things, but I had more time. I could go early, I could stay late, I could do things. I went to every networking, every meeting. I accepted everything, every organization, every association, and I invested my time. And so I think it was more like a farmer. I've kind of again, my background's psych, so I do think I have some insights at times that are a benefit from it. I believe that people in general break into hunters or farmers. And I can kind of see it in everybody that I meet. Some people are hunters, they lean towards hunting or they lean towards farming. Not that people can't do both, but if you woke up one day and said you get to do either one of those, would you go out and farm or would you go hunt? And I I had more time, so I was more of a farmer. And I do believe I've changed over the years. In those early days in my 20s, I was shy. I don't want to, like, again, I'm fearful of being wrong. So I have all of these documents and files and forms that I don't know anything about, and I'm reading them as voraciously as I could because from day one, I'm wrong about everything. And my goal was to get less wrong as I went. And then I was okay farming. I was okay sowing those seeds that would grow later. And that's how I did it. I mean, I know that's not always realistic for people, especially if you're switching from captive to, independent, or you're going personal lines to commercial, or you're getting into this after having a family, or, people that are depending on you. Then at that point, I think, you really do have to go door knock. I mean, I don't think it's much different today, especially for commercial lines, visiting companies in your community, being there, volunteering, showing up for stuff, and being a resource. And I will say this, I still go back to the success for me started by being smarter than the average bear. I knew things about coverages, and all it did is came out in conversation. They'd have something they would say, and I would say, if you check your policy, there's an endorsement in the back of this particular form that I know you have, and it has an exclusion for this. And I can't remember the page number right off the top, but I would go do it. One of the things I've talked about a lot is, I don't want to bash a carrier, but USAA is not an independent carrier. So in Minnesota, uh, state law has upheld the fact that there is a drop down provision in uninsured and underinsured motorists. There is a USAA versus or Frey versus USAA case. It went through the Supreme Court in Minnesota. And what happened was uh, they had bought $500,000 auto liability from USAA. Their daughter was driving, I forget all the details now, and somebody died, or the son's boyfriend, her boyfriend was injured, or whatever the case was. But who is an insured on a personal auto is the named insured, their spouse, and resident relative by blood, marriage, or adoption. Told you I was kind of a nerd. That's what it says in your personal auto. In USAA, there's a section, and it's still there. I just looked this year on the current USAA auto policy for Minnesota, and it says that if the accident is a result of somebody else in the household, the drop down provision applies, and it was upheld. So instead of getting up to $500,000 or 300,000 that this case was about, they got the 30,000. That's the drop down, and they sued, saying it was ambiguous in the policy, and that it was unclear, and they lost that. So now they did win on the fact that the person in the injury or the death or whatever it was not a resident of the household. So then that kicked it from that up. So again, this is why I love these forms, is there was two factors at play. One was the drop down provision. It's considered legally bindable. And the second was the definition of resident relative. And they defined this person as not a resident. So then the full coverage applied, something like that. But I say, if you have USAA, if you're single with no dependents, yippee. There's no risk. Married, spouse, children, anybody. If you're in Minnesota and you have USAA, you have less coverage than you think you have. But that kind of stuff I can geek out about just about anywhere. And it created that trust, and it built that that bridge for me to move into that stuff. And I did the same kind of learning forward into commercial lines. So
that's cool.
And I learn something every day. I do. You have to read it every day. You have to read your stuff. You can't get lazy.
Yep.
So
love that. Tell me about, one, do you have any niches, or have you gotten specialized as you've progressed? And then two, I guess I'll ask that one first. Yeah.
Yeah. So no and yes. I understand the riches are in the niches. Like, conceivably, I get it. Sometimes my desire to help gets in the way because not everything that comes to me is in my niche. So then I get distracted over here. But I did actually try to work down the liquor liability route. I feel really, really, really confident in that area. And so I wrote a little book on it, on, things that you should be aware of, what to be concerned about, things to consider. And then COVID hit, and every restaurant in Minnesota, couldn't let anybody in for like half a decade. So that was Minnesota. You could go out of state and everything was open, but not here. So so that kind of changed, and I had to pivot at that point. And I don't know that I've pivoted back. I'm still something I enjoy a lot. My husband spent 28 years in hospitality, so I have a passion for how hard that industry works. And again, if you're going to work really hard and your margins are small, but you're a partner with us, like, I'm all in. I'll help you out. And I'll make sure that you don't lose your restaurant over a stupid mistake in your liquor liability. So that was it. Other than that, no, I'm not smart enough to figure out how to make that even better, because I can't get out of my own way of helping the people that come in. So
I get it. Well, you're in a neat spot now, it sounds like, where you probably get a lot of business that comes to you. And so you don't get to pick and choose what knocks on your door. It's just handle what's at your plate.
Yeah. We've tried to be better about pre-screening some of that, because not everything that comes to your door deserves the education, the time, and the commitment, and the devotion that we have. So some of that learning process was reevaluating our worth and recognizing that I give 110% to everything we do. And does this person give me 100% of, when I ask them for something, do they send it? When I ask them for financials, do they provide it? When I ask them about loss control meetings, are they open? If they're not, I'm much better now at saying, doesn't sound like you're really the right fit for us. But that took time and some discipline. That did not happen overnight. And I still make mistakes. I still let people in that suck up my time and aren't a true partner, don't
Yeah.
reciprocate, make my life easier and my team's life by when we need this from you or we want you to implement this, it doesn't come freely. And that just makes it hard for us.
I
So,
get that. That's cool. Tell me about, all right, my second question I had for you. Tell me about how much you've had to change personally as you've started bringing on a team. Because it's one thing to go start in insurance, learn how to
mm-hmm.
sell, but then learning to manage a pretty large staff, that's a
Yeah.
whole different animal.
I think if you ask my staff, they'd say I don't do a very good job. And I've said that before. I don't have any training in people management. Um, I don't view myself, I guess, and I haven't for a long time in that role because I was still in the trenches with everybody else. I'm still quoting risks or taking intakes or assessing stuff or helping with claims. And I think because of that, maybe I didn't elevate my approach, my resources. I didn't invest as much time in learning how to lead people as I did learning how to understand insurance. And there is only so many hours in the day. So I did technically run out of hours to do all the things, which is some of that shift. I really desire to be better. I think I make the most mistakes communicating with and managing or failing to manage my team. I am very much a self-starter. I follow through. I take pride in my work. Doesn't matter what I do. I don't care what it is. And the best people for me are those that are kind of that way. They don't need me. Like I might show up a week later and go, "Hey, we work at the same place." Remember me? But they're killing it. And my door's always open, except for right now. But my door's almost always open. And my answer is between 8 and 5, I'm here for you to help you move forward. I think that was a detriment to me because I couldn't move my agency leadership in the right way because I was too tied down to being a servant to the team to too much of a degree. So one of my hopes is that in the coming months and as I've shifted out of my day-to-day role to reinvest in, I have some books I've started on, how to be a better leader and how to communicate better. I'm not a big fan of accountability. I struggle with holding my team accountable. I just want them to do their job. I don't want to have to come check. And I do get frustrated, disappointed, and upset when I find out because I didn't check your work, you didn't do your work. And I'm like, what part of that? What part of that did you not understand? I wrote your check out. It went to your bank account. And, I don't ask you to stay past 4:30 like once every 2 years. Can we just do the job that you showed up for? Because that's how I'm wired. I think I need somebody else to be the buffer between me and the team to take that expectation and make it to translate it. So remember how I said translation? I need a translator between where the office needs to be and how the team understands that because my language isn't the strongest.
Interesting. Okay.
That's my transparency. How's that
Yeah.
for you?
Yeah,
So,
there you go.
yeah, there's a
So
lot of
almost
things I'm
like
fantastic at, but I'm not the best leader and I would like to be better at it.
it would be
So,
interesting. There is a test, and you may have taken it, rocket fuel, where some people are,
oh, EOS.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it's in that
yeah,
same family.
yeah,
So if you're a
yeah,
visionary versus
yep,
integrator, sounds like you're
yep, yeah,
probably way down the visionary
yeah. I
line.
am. I
Yeah.
am. Yes.
So
Yeah,
I get that. I'm very similar boat. And
yep,
so typically I need an ops manager that can
yep,
come into the weeds and
yep,
implement.
yep. We have run on and off of EOS, and the only reason we run off of it is because I don't have somebody that can keep us on it. But we've been basically trying to run on EOS for probably about 4 years, and it's fantastic. But
Mhm.
I'm in charge of it, and so that's not good.
Sure. Well, and
So
well, and it's interesting because we all come from different backgrounds, right? And there are some people where they just run, right? And some people just know, hey, if I run with you, I'm going to pick up pieces along the way, right?
yep,
And there are other people where like they'll wait for you to come back on the lap around to try and slow you down to say, oh, well,
yep,
you're that far ahead of me,
yep,
instead of saying, can I just start, right?
yep,
And so it's always interesting to see how that develops because a lot of times we want the people that are like us because we think we're gonna get similar results, right? For me, I think one things I've also learned, and I think Tyler, you probably touched on this, sometimes we just need to find the person that's the complete opposite,
Yep.
which is so hard and counterintuitive, I think, because somebody asked me the other day, what would you do if you had to start over? I would hire the people for the things that I did not know what to do,
Yep.
specifically probably accounting to start.
Yep.
But taxes, all those things. But yeah, it's I think a lot of people have the similar things, and then but I give you kudos for recognizing that and knowing that, knowing who you are. I think it makes a big difference. But that's also why you're able to still retain a high number of staff. Not a lot of people can do that and still retain that because they're still trying to figure out how they operate just themselves. So,
Yeah. Well, the EOS, I mean, that's one of the things I do subscribe to the concept and the structure of EOS, the visionary, and the integrator. I think that goes to what you just said, Patrick, about, the person that's running the laps and finding that opposite. And I've tried twice to hire somebody who's in that role. And I haven't been successful yet, so I'll try it again. But I am looking for that person that I have six great ideas. What I need them to do is honestly filter through them, and I need them to understand why I have the ideas, because this is where we're trying to get to. And at the end of the day, if all six of them are bad, fine, let's find a seventh or an eighth. But like you gave the example where they just wait for you to lap around, that's not a good fit. And the last time I hired, I tried to use the example of trust but verify. I
yeah.
am a high trust um, person. I assume that you understand, that you're invested, that you hold yourself to a high standard. Here's your instructions, go. Um, and then I come back and check later. So I'll trust you, and I might not check for a week or two or a month. And then I come back and and if you didn't come back and say, I had questions, I am actually literally disappointed. What part of coming back and saying, I didn't understand this, I ran into a problem? That's what I needed, instead of waiting for me to check on you in a month. And then you're like, oh, I stopped on Tuesday because I couldn't understand it. That trust but verify, I think that EOS model has that the visionary's high trust. Patrick tells me he's going to do something for him. And I'm like, guess what? I'm all in, Patrick. Like, this is the best idea. And I come back, I'm like, this is how we're going to do it. This is what we're going to implement. This is what we're going to buy. I need the but verify to go back and go, I want to talk to three people that use your software. I want to understand, how does your software work with our end goal? How does your process meet our needs? I'm already writing a check because I see this great thing. I need the but verify.
Mhm.
And I do. I want to trust that but verify to come back and say, I did actually check out your three suggestions. Two of them are not a good fit, but one of them is fantastic. Let's go all in on this one. That's what I want. And it is trying to find that yin and yang that does work well together.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, and it's a fine path, like trying to figure that out because I've had the people where they want to update you on everything. And I used to say I'd rather have them ask questions versus not ask questions.
yep,
But then you get people who ask too many questions and
yep,
they get reliant on asking questions,
yep,
right? And
yep,
I know you touched base on that. So it is hard to find the balance of like the person that, asks just the right questions
yep,
and will go and do those things. And I fully give grace because knowing that they're going to make mistakes. But I feel like that
yep,
because they're going to make those mistakes, that they're going to learn so much more from those too. But so many
yep.
people are just so afraid to make those.
Well, I think too, it's teaching, and this is where I think I failed over years in the past, of not forcing them to find other people to go to. So I became their, one of my notes says Saku, SAKU, source of all knowledge in the universe. I was told at one point that I need to take off my Saku hat, and I was like, what are you talking about? And but that's the answer, is if I created an environment where, yep, I probably did have the answer because I did actually read the form. I am your fastest source to the answer, but I can't be that. So you're going to have to go somewhere else. It's going to take you three times as long to get your answer from underwriting, but by stealing that opportunity, it's like stealing my opportunity to learn how to tie a car to a car trailer. I learned it. Now I could do it, a little bit faster the next time.
Mhm.
But I took that opportunity from them by knowing that they could come here and get the correct answer right away, and then they could keep moving. And that is a weird, hard dynamic to change when you shift from by yourself or a small team to a bigger team, because you physically and mentally and emotionally and psychologically cannot continue at that pace and
Right.
being that source of all knowledge.
Yeah.
How
So,
does the team, and obviously this is more diving in than interview style, but how does the team operate whenever you're out of office? Like, let's say you're on vacation for a week. What's
yeah.
stuff like that week?
Well, lately, um, it's I've noticed that I check to make sure my Teams is logged in because I'm like, I don't have any messages. Nobody needs me. Whereas most vacations, I mean, I'm taking a laptop and two portable monitors,
Yep.
and I have a Verizon hotspot dedicated for myself, and I am working. Some of
Mhm.
it's because I felt like I had to, and some of it was because I do really enjoy what I do. But the other part was is there was all these messages in Teams and or Slack or wherever, and they were dead in the water until I got back to them. And I see dollar signs and I see unhappy clients and bad PR. So my goal was to get, like I said, when I'm here, my door's always open. I didn't know how to shut a door on vacation because I never shut a door in my office.
Mm.
And so part of that was just learning to do it. And again, there was some pain. People sat and waited. And, and then sometimes I actually, again, this is where I wish I had better people skills. Sometimes I'm like, they send me a direct message and we have like an all commercial lines chat. Everybody in commercial lines is on here. Here's your brain trust. You don't know where it is. You can't solve it. Go here. They would send me a message. I'd copy their message and I'd paste it into the all group. So and so asked this question. Can anybody help so and so? And I'm like, see, this is what you do. So I just had to, I probably could have handled it better, but I get frustrated. Why do I have 75 messages in
Right.
Teams? So, I had to push back to get them just to stop. And just like anybody else where you've developed dependence, it's like kids, they developed a dependence and I created that. So
Yeah.
now it hurt. It hurt them. It hurt me to like push back and go, I know the answer to this, but I'm not going to give it to you.
Yeah.
And then they fought it a few times. They'd send me another private message. And like after the fifth time where I posted their message back into the group channel, they stopped doing it. And now I don't get any messages. Now I check to see if my Teams is actually like is am I logged out? Because there's nothing, And that's the way it should be. Like if it's serious, big claim, fire, we had a personal lines client get hit by a car as a pedestrian. Just when the big stuff comes, they come. That's what it should look like so that I can sit and do what AI protocols are we going to work on? We're changing from one management system to another in order to tie into some, better API and AI capabilities. That's what I should be doing every day is leading us to the next stage in our agency development.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
because nobody else was doing that either. So I figured it probably was my job right now.
Yep, I heard that. All right. Well, last question from me. Tell me about how you personally define success, because I'm sure
Mm,
that's changed over the years too.
yep. Yep. So I thought about this a lot. I might even have a sticky note up here. But what I kind of realized in those early years was that I think, and I'll speak for myself, but I think it's probably common for a lot of entrepreneurs. Um, I didn't have a definition of success because every time I achieved one thing, I'm a visionary. I can see the bigger. Like I would call my dad and I'd be like, Dad, I just wrote my first account that's over $999. He's like, good for you. That's fantastic. That's awesome. You know, and I'm like, but there's one that's $1,050. And now I got to immediately go for that. I didn't have a definition. I think that was great for drive, development, success, etc. I don't think it was good for mental health, relationships, things like that, because I didn't have an end point. I couldn't stop and celebrate. I had tiny moments, and it was usually an account type or an account size or something like that. I did. going through the Goldman Sachs program, I did take some time to reevaluate success outside of work. I'm very defined by what I do. Again, I think that's just a trait that I got growing up from my parents, that who I am is very much about my work. Um, and I had to step back. I had to say some of my goals are going to be, being home at a certain time, or making sure that I'm allocating time for, family stuff or spouse stuff, or taking vacations and bringing only one monitor, or, putting my phone down, or telling them maybe it's baby steps. I'm going to be unavailable till noon. I couldn't go a whole day. It's like being addicted and you have to like withdraw from it.
Yep.
You can't just wake up on Tuesday and go, I'm not going to help you. You got to figure out how to do it in increments so that it works. Today, I would define success as, and I'm in my 50s now, as having a business that serves not just my client base, but is serving the needs and the lifestyles of my team. Um, I, 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 there's a legacy piece to it. Um, when I was smaller, I used to think about how when I'm no longer doing this, I want somebody to have this agency and it should still be around. And, again, very small picturist. Today, um, I would honestly tell you that when I'm not running it anymore, I think it'll continue to get bigger than it is today. And I don't think it's going to have the same community connection that I do with
Mhm.
it. But that's because I started on it when, 30 years ago. Um, but I would like to leave a legacy. So for me, success would be leaving a legacy within the schools, the communities, certain organizations that we support, scholarships. I'd like to get to a place where we're leaving something that's improving our community area that served this growth for us. So I don't know if that's a really succinct answer, but I mean, I've been thinking a lot about scholarships for schools. I've got kids that are graduating now. My second's just graduated. My third will graduate next year. And I started thinking about how how can I leave a legacy, and I'm not leaving it for them necessarily because they're already out the door, but for those kids that I'm watching, that I wish I could have thought about this sooner, and found a way to help some of these other kids that are working really hard to get through school. It's a totally different environment. This is an industry, though. If anyone's watching this that's not in the industry, you do not need a college degree. You
Yeah.
can be awesome, make good money, have a fantastic life, and you do not need anything past a high school diploma, and grit, fortitude, follow through, ambition, personality. So,
Yeah, I'm a product of going back to school 4 times and never walking away with a degree. I could never figure out what I wanted to do and
yeah,
what I wanted to be, but I'd
yeah,
always been in the industry. So thank you for sharing that. I think a lot of
yeah,
times people forget that aspect. Um, so I have a couple of questions. I think it was your son that I got a chance to meet at
yeah.
Inditech.
Alex, yeah.
Yeah. Um, and so what is it like, from when you started to now having family as part of the agency? And obviously you probably don't desire for him to go through your path. So how does that change now from the mentality aspect?
Yeah, so Alex is 21. He's been in the industry now just a year and a half. My kids, so I have four kids. My youngest is 11. I have 11, 17, 18, and 21. Other than forcing them to come help clean out papers or do filing every once in a while, I mean, they never worked in my office. And
Mhm.
so I didn't have that traditional thing. I know there's a lot of people that their kids come in for summer and internships. I just never did.
Mhm.
And Alex went to school for computer science. He was very focused and driven in a particular way. And when that didn't go well, luckily he did leave school instead of sticking through it and developing a huge school debt, because I'm really proud of the fact that he just said, yeah, this is not for me.
Mhm.
And then he kind of had to figure some stuff out. He worked at a gas station and whatever else. And he had a conversation with a vendor in our industry, Carl from Gaia. And as you all know, if you tell your own kid something,
I
it's
don't
it's complete crap. But if someone else sells it to him, it's fact.
Mm,
So I love the fact that Carl like said to him, they were talking about working in the industry, but not in insurance. Like, what does our industry have for technology? Do you need a 4-year degree? And so he was helping them with ideas. They were just kind of having chat sessions. I appreciate Carl kind of just saying, if he wants to talk to somebody, let me know. And he did. Alex took him up on that. And Carl said, "What's this gas station job? Where's it getting you?" And I was like, "Okay." And it's not getting you where you want to go. So quit and go. You got to go do something else. He's like, "Ask your mom what she's got. See if she's got anything you could do. She works some crazy hours. She's probably got something you could do and take something off her plate." And so he did, and he's worked. He's in sales. And I think the reason I did that is when you said, Patrick, that not to repeat where I was, what I learned is that I I'm not the best at managing the people. I don't enjoy the financial, the QuickBooks, the accounting, the HR. What I'm really good at is technically sales.
mm,
It's just an educational sales process.
yeah.
I'm really good at hearing what your problem is and finding you a solution. Alex is wired a lot like that. I know that as his parent. And he's not incredibly emotional. So, like I always talk about personal and commercial lines. I'm way better in commercial lines. Personal lines, how's your vacation? How's your dog? What's your kid? And I'm like, how many kids do you have? I can't even keep track of my own kids, much less your children. Can't figure out what dog's name I have. I don't have that little personal mentality piece. But commercial lines works great. They want it yesterday and they want it right.
Mm,
And they want you to anticipate what they forgot to ask you, but you probably should have known that they needed because that's what business owners do.
yeah.
And I work great in that. And so does Alex. So when he came in, I told him what I needed help with was sales. We have so much incoming business. Some of it's great, some of it's not, but it's a great way to learn the industry, read the forms, learn what the client does. And I started him in commercial sales. And I said, this is what you do. You read the forms and you learn what they do. And and it was a low risk for me because they were coming in anyways. And if we didn't get to them fast enough and they went and found somebody else because they shopped 5 people, oh well. But he learned the forms and he learned the process and he learned how to talk to underwriting and he learned how to talk to somebody besides me.
Mm,
And that was what I did differently. I set him up to be self-sufficient and sufficient with underwriters, technology, and other resources because I can't babysit him any more than I can babysit anybody else on my team.
yeah.
And so I think commercial line sales is a great place to start, and it doesn't have to be big. He sells some small stuff, but we have a meeting at this afternoon with a homeowners association, and it's not super big. It's like 15,000, but that's a big account for him. And he's had some really nice stuff that he's done, and he sits and reads the forms. Again, I think if you're going into commercial lines, if that doesn't interest you to really understand it, you have to have a memory. If you're the sticky note person, I have sticky notes, but you have to remember that stuff about the form. Otherwise, you're just a salesperson. And I think those are the ones that burn out because you're just selling something and you can sniff that out later on anyways, and then they don't stay. I can AOR anything from anybody that somebody else sold them and couldn't explain it.
Mm.
So, because I can explain it and I didn't even see it, but I read
Yeah.
it once like 2 years ago, so I know what it says. So, yeah.
I think it's so cool that that you already know that he's going to be a great fit in there, and again, just from the small bit chance I got to briefly talk with him and meet him, and well put together kid, and you know super exciting to know because I think a lot of us always ask that question, what if we had started our agency when we were younger? What if we got into
Hmm.
this, when we were younger? So I'm excited to kind of watch his trajectory.
Yep.
But even more so now after kind of hearing kind of the pathway and what you did to be able to do that. Um, do you anticipate that part of that legacy that you talked about do you foresee that the family will keep this going? Pete Coville just kind of is getting ready to celebrate 100 years,
Yep.
which is really crazy for his agency. And so do you anticipate that that is in the plans, or is it just kind of a we'll figure it out as we get there type situation?
Um, so my honest answer is I don't know.
Mhm.
When I first got into this, I always kind of felt like maybe the kids would take it over. I mean, I had really young kids at that time. I didn't have kids for the first 9 years, but originally when they were really young, I kind of thought, oh, this is a family business. Like they'll grow up, they could, do something, whatever. And then I kind of realized that none of them seemed interested. I also didn't have them into the office. And they do have the things that they like to do. Um, and then when I acquired the agency that I did in 2022, it shifted our size to a degree where I don't know that it's reasonable or affordable anymore for them to, this is my retirement now. And
Mhm.
so I can't give it away. Um, and and so the Goldman Sachs program also one of the place you start in that program is your exit strategy. So they start off with what's your exit strategy, and they have like close your doors, sell to an outside party, sell to your inside party, family, whatever else. And at the end of that, I realized that probably selling or moving it to my kids is probably not realistic. Um, and I had to look at it a little differently. So today I would tell you that I would anticipate if I am granted the gift of, being around another 15 years, 20 years in the industry, um, that I would honestly see over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years that there's a strategic alliance, myself and maybe a couple others that are similar in size choose to create an alliance of some kind so that there is a buyout. Because I think when you're small, I could buy you out. When you're super big, there's four places that can buy you out. And when you get in that middle, it's that middle market. That's so sweet. You get in there and it makes it harder. You still have people you care about. Like right now, my biggest investment, and if I sold, what happens to Alex?
Mhm.
So now I have a tie to what happens. If I sell to a big equity firm, they're going to let everybody go, and I might make the most money, but then I actually have people I really care about that I don't want to see them, you know, ousted. So what do I do? That best way would be I have somebody I could buy you out of something, four of us are together, we all buy you out and we have this relationship. That might be the next phase of what happens to agencies my size that are not that big. So I don't know, but I do know that I do see it now more as a business, and this is my retirement. This is what I've put it into. So I have to be able to support myself and my husband through all of those phases. He works for the city, so he also does really well for himself. So I think we'll be fine. But it isn't something I can just give away anymore
Right.
and hand it to my kids at that point. And I think I don't know that it's something they could afford to purchase.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. So I'm keeping I guess I'm just keeping it open. But my husband knows if something, God forbid, happens to me, he knows who he has to call and figure it out because he does not want this job. So, but yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, we've had that conversation
Yeah.
about who to call.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I love that how honest that is because I think a lot of times the idea again it crosses our minds, oh, maybe our kids can take this over, but I think that's honest that your son would how long would it take for him to be able to get to the point where he could feasibly take a look at maybe buying you out or taking it over and still
right.
avoid the payments.
Yeah.
So I love that you
Well, who
went
knows
there.
what it looks like? I mean, we've all been in it long enough. When I was in it, I was manually rating. If you wanted a different deductible, I had to flip a page, find the numbers, do the math, and tell you what it was. You
Mm,
know, what is it going to look like? He's 21, so 31, 41, 51, 30 years from now, 20 years from now, what does it look like? I do think that in the commercial space, you will be more insulated and have way more opportunity. AI is wrong. And so you go put something in there, and if you don't have a way to vet that answer, you cannot tell. I mean, I show my team all the time. Look what this headline says. You put it in here and you realize that it misunderstood how it was supposed to interpret that question. I do think that large commercial and middle market commercial is going to use it for some understanding, but they are going to still want somebody responsible for it. And I don't see that changing. I do think the personal line side is going to change. And I think that you have people that will believe the AI gave them the right answer and they won't know it until they have a claim that's not covered correctly. But I think your small commercial and your personal lines on a base are going to gravitate towards I can do this myself. So I think when you're in commercial, you have some insulation to what that looks like, but I don't know what it's going to look like. So maybe he'd be better off shifting into, commercial sales, but on a tech channel of some kind, helping middle market or maybe large, clients, helping navigate their online purchase of insurance, and he's their loss control person,
Mhm.
or whatever. I mean, the roles could very well change.
Yep.
I just don't know what it'll look like.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I don't think any of us are, and I think Garrett Droege talked about the quantum agent and companies,
mhm.
using the blockchain technology, and we've seen now people purchasing items directly from their TV, so who knows, right? I know
Yep.
Amazon a couple of years ago talked about launching insurance. We obviously watched Hippo try to do that because they have the home securities, and then they quickly
Yep.
realized that
Yep.
it's not something you just walk into. So,
Yep.
but I mean, we've seen companies like Root all of a sudden develop, from a gimmick that nobody else thought could work. So who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's super interesting.
I do love having him here, though. I will say it wasn't something I ever expected, to
Mhm.
have a kid in the agency, and I will say that we do keep it very professional. So there's no mom here. And if
Yeah.
one of us has a personal conversation need, I will say I need 5 minutes of non-work time.
Hmm.
Like I got to
Okay.
talk about Easter, or okay, can you do this? Like, it is like I need to shift from this to this. And I don't know how to do it any other way. And
Yeah.
maybe that's because I'm not as emotional in that, and neither is he. So both of us really just went right down the professional line, and I don't know, but it works really well. So
Yeah. That's really
cool.
cool. Thank you for sharing. And please tell him I said hi as well.
I
So
will. I
yeah.
will. He will be at Indie Tech next January.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
yeah.
I'm excited. Um, that's really all the things that I had.
Yeah.
And this was so much fun. Thank you for taking the time to come in here because I know, again, you see dollar signs. We all see dollar signs and we're like, oh man, an hour. But this was a lot of fun for us. I don't know if you have anything
Thank
else on
you.
your side, Tyler.
No, that's all I've got. Dawn, thank you so
Oh, it
much.
was
Thank you
great.
for your
Thank
time.
you.
We had a great time.
Good.
Everybody, check her out, check out her agency, and we will see y'all in the next episode.
Thank you.